Welcome back to Six Side Cornhole. Today I'm with Luke Bryant, and we're going to tap into the mental side of the game. Cornhole is about 80% mental. You can have all the fancy shots in your arsenal. You can hit the rolls, the air mells, the bars, soaps, and all of that. But if you don't understand the mental side of the game and master it, you'll never make it to the top level of the game. So today in this video, we're gonna go over some tips on how you can lock in and focus through those long tournaments and make sure you stay dialed in and perform at your best for every single game.
Alrighty guys, the reason why Cornhole is 80% mental is because when you think about it, the game is just throwing the bag at the board, the objective, you're trying to throw the bag in the hole, and that seems pretty easy, when you think about it, and it is easy. That's why the top pros are so good at throwing a lot of bags in or hitting rolls and cuts. But what really makes them different and what separates them from, your average player is that they're the strength of the mind. Cornhole is 80% mental, and you have to master that part before you can, really see yourself having success. Step one in, the mental process and the mental game in Cornhole, if it's a big tournament, like say you're playing a pro national or you're playing a big tournament that you're looking forward to, days before, that's when you start getting yourself ready. That's what I do. If I'm playing in a big tournament, it could be a couple days before and I'm already thinking about it. I'm thinking about strategy. I'm thinking about what I need to do. So then when you show up to the tournament, you're not scrambling around or nervous. You're locked in because 3 days prior, you're already thinking about it and you're already thinking about what you're going to do. You start from when you enter the building. You walk in, and it's just, what I like to do is just remember why I'm there. I'm like, it's fun that you have friends there. You have your other players, you like to have fun, but you're there to play cornhole and you're there to win, and you got to keep that in mind. A lot of things I see when I show up to a tournament is a lot of people like to, over obsess about a bracket. They get the bracket link, they look at it, they're worried about seeding, who they have to play first, who they have to play second, who they might have to play in the king seat. But realistically, none of that matters. When you enter the tournament, anybody could win. Like, it's everybody in the bracket steps up to the board and throws 4 bags. So I really don't like to look at the bracket a lot because, you take one game at a time. You win one game. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You play it like you're playing the best every time. You take every game serious. And if you lock in from start to finish, it doesn't matter who you're playing because you're locked in. You're playing to your best ability. So you're at the tournament. You get your text message. You're up for your first game. And this is the time where people get nervous. First game, they get antsy. This is when they get all the jitters out. Figure out how the boards are playing. But you want to make sure you lock in for that first game, just like it's any other game. You don't want to show up and be like, oh, I got a first round, easy round. Like it's never like that. So from your first game to the last, you want to be the same locked in, like you're playing for the biggest championship there is. Treat every game the same, no matter what game it is, because at the end of the day, you're just playing cornhole. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. From first game to the championship, you're just playing cornhole. Everybody has their own strategy when locked in for a tournament, but for me personally, is next game mentality. Just because we won our first game, even if you won 21-0, or even if you lost, because that happens sometimes, you're on to the next. It's not I won one game and I'm looking forward to who I'm playing in the king seat. I'm locking in for the second game. So after my first game, I like to maybe walk around, not really throw anymore, just kind of stay in the locked in mind. Maybe put some headphones on. That's what I like to do. Just stay in that mentally locked in mind. So then when you're called up to the board for the second game, you've already been there. You've done that the first game. You're still locked in. You never really unlocked. It doesn't matter who you're playing, where you're playing, what the stakes are. I mean, you could be playing Mark Richards or Jamie Graham, but just the main thing is focusing on what you can control. You have 4 bags. Another big part of, what brings down people's mental game is they like to make a lot of excuses, and excuses really don't make sense to me in cornhole because everybody's playing on the same condition, People like to say, oh, the boards are too sticky, the boards are too fast, I can't play to my ability. Well, everybody has to play on it, and that's just affecting you by making excuses because it's mentally telling yourself that it's okay if I lose this game. It's okay because the boards are too quick, or I'm outside, the wind's blowing, and that's just not acceptable because excuses aren't good and they really affect your mental game. Also, another thing to remember is you could be fully locked in. You could take all the right steps. You could be fully locked in for your first game and throw an 11, and you could still lose. That just happens. That's how the game works. You could be throwing to the best of your ability, but the dude you're throwing against is just a little bit better and he's throwing to the best of his ability. So how you go about going to the next game mentality is not worrying about why I lost. You know, I'm not sitting here saying, you know, I lost because of this, I lost because of that. It's saying like, okay, next game mentality. I lost, but you know, I have 2 losses for a reason. You know, I'm on to the next, and you always have the chance to double dip. Just because you lose one does not mean that you're out of the tournament. So that's where the next game mentality really comes into play, because you know, a lot of people they like to break after they lose a game, especially if it's close or if it's at a big tournament. But that's just part of the game. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose big moments. You're gonna lose by 1 point, and it's how you handle yourself after that and how you move on to the next that will really separate your mental game from the others.
Cornhole's almost easier than almost every other sport out there, but what separates it is that mental part. You can have all the fancy shots, you can hit every roll, cut, airmail, but the consistency comes from the mental side of the game. Make sure to like and subscribe if this video has helped you. If you have any other parts of the game that you want covered and maybe some tutorials, let us know in the comments and we'll make sure we help you out.
Hope this video helped you guys, you know, and remember, find your rhythm, find your version of Locked In, and always remember, 0 excuses.